how has doing this show, we met in 2022 January, right? Along the same date.
2022.
That was what 4 years? That was a good solid 4 years ago.
4 years. Oh my God.
So
a lot has happened.
I want Mr. X show, Asmi's show to everybody. Okay. I want to understand this, and I want my audience to actually know how has doing the show that you do, which comes on YouTube, all right? It's on YouTube, so it's on social media. How has that actually changed you as a person?
Well, in many ways. First of all, I have become more confident, I would say, because I know I'm someone who's I didn't used to be as confident when it comes to speaking. Remember, in Miss Nepal, I was very, very, very scared, and people didn't really understand. She keeps saying that she's scared, but she's in this platform. How can she bring that up as an excuse is what people used to tell me. But then there I was trying to overcome my fear, trying to prove otherwise, because I wanted to be like you. I wanted to be a confident speaker someday. So which is why when I said yes to Wow Saturday Brunch, I know I'm someone who likes to hear people's stories. I like to have conversation. So I said yes in that way. And then I was like, my fear of speaking, I'll just see what I can do about it, which is how I went ahead with it. Sometimes you just need to jump and then figure out what to do. That is what I did. And I feel like I've really grown. And not just that, meeting people from different field, different background. It's like, before I invite a guest, I may have a very different perspective about them. But when I sit down with them, when I talk about them, about life, about work, about career, my perspective towards them is totally transformed. And that is what I love about this job, that I get to know people from a different perspective, very up close. And then that is what I get to show to the world, a different side to them. So yeah, that is what I've learned from this, and I feel like I'm going to do more of this in coming days.
We hope you do, and we really hope that you share this story with more creators at the Creators Mela and beyond.
Yeah.
Because taking that risk, taking that leap of faith, trying to do something new, that too digitally.
Yes. अनि दाइ मैले सोचेकै थिएन कि यसले मलाई रिब्रान्डिङमा कति हेल्प गर्छ भनेर के, because again, after a point, it does get stagnant. People will be like, okay, it's the same face. I'm not planning to do acting. I'm not entering film industry, because generally that is the trajectory for many people, right? Like modeling, acting, and then you go on ahead. For me, it was like, okay, I don't want to enter film industry, but how do I still rebrand myself?
Yeah.
Then this was the place where I rediscovered myself. And that is what people know me for these days. When I go out, people are like, oh my God, I love the interviews that you take. I love the kind of, the different side of you that we get to see on Wow Saturday Brunch. So that itself excites me so much. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is the key, that you keep rediscovering yourself if you want to be in this field for a long time. Because see how you've done it over the time. How long has it been that you've done this?
For me, that's a great question. I joined the media in 2008. So it's been 18 years for me, but I transitioned.
Sure before that,
2008. So I transitioned I started my career from the radio, and then I transitioned to television.
Funny thing.
Yes.
Maybe in 2008. Yeah, I did my first magazine cover back then in 2008.
Mike, did you start in the media back in 2000?
Yeah, so living in Los Angeles, you're kind of in Hollywood and surrounded by all of that. And so I actually got my start at a television news station called Channel 1 News, which for its time was kind of a mix between MTV, MTV, right?
Yeah.
So like this kind of like young, energetic feel to it. MTV meets CNN. So a lot of international reporting, but with a more youthful angle to it. And so I wasn't on camera. I remember, this is embarrassing. I remember, so I was a researcher and then an associate producer at this network doing stories like on human trafficking, drug trafficking, kind of these bigger investigative news stories. I had this, inspiration to be in front of the camera, however, and I auditioned one day, and I was honestly, guys, I was just so completely lost because I'm in the soundstage, the studio in Hollywood across the street from Paramount Pictures. So this huge lot. And, I'm used to seeing it from behind the camera, all the presenters, reading the teleprompter, reading the scripts that I've helped write and produce. But to be in front of the camera, like deer in the headlights, completely lost because, I'm looking at a teleprompter. They're telling me to walk towards the teleprompter and read. But then at this line, I'm looking over here, and then I'm looking over here to read the line. And honestly, I was completely lost. And, watching that audition video was just so embarrassing. And then talking to my executive producer afterwards, he was like, you know what, Mike, like, I think you work out a lot, and just like working out, it takes a lot of practice. You've got a lot of potential, but I think just keep practicing. And that was kind of just like a nice way to, inspire me and push me to work a little bit harder. And it's, that definitely has motivated me in the work that I do now. And that I'm doing podcast interviews. And so this, just being mindful of the whole production process, your presence on camera, that moment back at that TV station sticks with me to this day, and just in terms of how I'm presenting myself to the camera. And I think it really takes those kinds of moments in our life, those kind of embarrassing learning experiences, to really help push us forward.
True. No shadow of doubt.
I'm sure you've got moments like that too.
Very similar to that. I remember back in Nepal television when my first day at the job, and I remember one of my producers coming and telling me, if you get nervous, I'll never forget this. If you get nervous, just look at the red light on top of the camera. But don't stare at it. So every camera used to have a red light, and then whenever the red light's on, that means that camera is focused on you. So just look at the red light and just go for it, but don't stare at it, because once you start staring at it, you're gonna completely forget what you want to say. So that's something that I take with me for the rest of my life. Like just don't get fixated on it, but actually just observe it. Know that it's the presence of the camera and the presence of the microphones there, and then just let your heart out. And that was something I learned.
It's amazing to see how far you've come, Sanjay Dai, and how you've been able to build your brand, Vyas. It's come very far. And अहिलेसम्म कतिवटा गर्नुभयो होला क्या तपाईँले यो च्यानलको थ्रुमा त how many people have you interviewed so far?
This is a very, very great question, and I want to mention this not just because Mike is here and Mike represents the US Embassy, right? I was a connection, Mike, that both of us have. I saw a studio similar to this in Los Angeles when I was there back in the day. And I asked the person, like, what kind of studio is this? Because I had only seen either a big, humongous television studio or a small music studio where you could record songs. I had never seen a studio similar to this where people sit down and have a conversation and there's a camera there. Because radio stations don't have cameras where I used to work. Television stations have a different setup. So it was a combination between a television and a radio. And I was very fascinated by it. And then the person mentioned to me, it's a podcast studio, but it's a video podcast studio. And it was just taking off at that time around the world. And I was like, man, I should get this. I should have this in the country that I was born, the country that I love. And again, backtrack, COVID happened. Obviously, it was a perfect time for me to sit down with my friends and, just understand what's going on, understand what they're going through. And that's how it actually started. I just wanted to sit down with my friends and have a good time. Just learn, soak in things, get out of the box and have a conversation longer than the specific format of 1 hour, or 30 minutes without breaks. that's how it started, and we've got this far. And I'm glad that we played a role in we're one of the first ones, not the first one of the first ones to make it commercial in Nepal. But now there are multiple podcasts, and anywhere in the country I go and somebody just looks at me, hey, you're the podcast गर्ने dai, you know, the brother who does podcast. And I'm like, okay.
Sanjay Gupta equals to podcast bhai अहिले.
Podcast bhai. Yeah.
Podcast bhai and podcast dai.
तपाईले यस्तो podcastको culture establish गर्नुभयो कि हामी wow Saturday brunchमा we work so hard for the visuals and they'll be like, oh दिदी तपाईको podcast हेरे थिएँ. I'm like, dude, that's not a podcast. There's a difference. Like, you guys should understand what a podcast is and what a show is. Yeah, everybody thinks that every show is a podcast now. It's become another word for any show. Okay, so
I love it because the word podcasting started with there's a very famous video of Steve Jobs where he explains it to everybody. I love Steve Jobs, right? I love talking about Steve Jobs, where it's a combination between iPod, the pod from the iPod, and then the broadcast cast. So you put a pod and a cast together. Yeah. So that's how it actually started.
I didn't know. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And now everybody knows.